global multidão, realizing just transitions. Welcome to the German Climate Pavilion at COP30 in Billy.
All right. Are we? Okay, good morning, distinguished guests, members of the Climate Club, experts. Thank you so much for joining us here today at the German Pavilion. My name is Michael Apicelli. I am the head of the Climate Club Secretariat. And I am absolutely thrilled, and that is no understatement, to be moderating today's event to celebrate the Climate Club's achievements in 2025 and the look ahead. So as a first order of business, it is my distinct pleasure to hand over the floor to Her Excellency Alicia Bárcena, Secretary of Environment and Natural Resources of Mexico, to share some very, very exciting news. Madam Minister, please.
Good morning, everyone. Minister Schneider, what a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank you for the invitation. I'm very pleased to participate in the celebration of the progress made by Climate Club. Congratulations, because it's a real accelerator for the industry transition. We will listen very closely to what you have to say, Minister, and of course what Secretary Miliband, who's not here, but somebody will represent him, of course, has managed to bring together not only countries with high ambitions, but also organizations, international experts, and the political will to accelerate decarbonization. I would like to emphasize that all of these achievements not only valuable for the mitigation of greenhouse gases and the contribution to the Paris Agreement, they are valuable to demonstrate that decarbonization can not only be about lowering emissions, but also is to go for a different kind of development. And this is what we're trying to do. We are very much for circular economy, for example, in Mexico, and we are convinced that climate action is a driver of development, and that with the right investments we can achieve in one generation the kind of progress and development that took others a century. It is true, it is time to change paradigms through the conviction that it's possible to promote innovative production and industrial projects that simultaneously drive decarbonization of the economy and reduce inequalities. So let me tell you that I am very pleased, very, very pleased to announce that Mexico is joining the Climate Club with the conviction that we are partnering with ambition, with ambitious allies, and I'm looking forward to working together to accelerate climate action. Thank you for inviting us, and we are happy to join the Climate Club. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister Bárcena. We are very much looking forward to working with you and learning from Mexico as they join the Climate Club to accelerate the industrial transition. And with this incredible news, frankly, I would now like to invite Minister Carsten Schneider, Minister for Environment, Climate Action, Nature Conservation, and Nuclear Safety of the Federal Republic of Germany, to the stage. Minister Schneider.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Dear Alicia, Minister Bárcena, once again, welcome here at the German Pavilion. I don't know what you're going to do tomorrow, but it's a good place. You could do another announcement. I'm very happy to host the Climate Club here today, and once again, thanks a lot for your tremendous speech and the decision the great country of Mexico did with the decision to come be part of the Climate Club. I'm delighted to see you all here today. We want to present the Climate Club's achievements in 25 and look ahead to the future, to what we want to tackle with our partners, and I'm very happy to have another partner. We set up the Climate Club in 2023. It's a high-level intergovernmental forum to accelerate industry decarbonisation. We now have 47 members from all over the world. And as I said, I really welcome Mexico as our newest member. We are delighted to have another important country on board. This will strengthen our joint efforts to achieve green industrialization. The Climate Club structure is unique. The Global South and North collaborate closely at both political and expert level. Above all, this will enable us to find common solutions more quickly for carbon-free or low-carbon production for cement and steel. In other words, for basic materials that are crucial for our economies, but linked to high emissions. We also learn more about our different interests and concerns and take them into account. Industry transition is key to climate action. And by same token, climate-friendly decision is key to competitive industry. And I always welcome my friend from UK, representing the United Kingdom. It drives innovation, attracts investment, and creates future-proof jobs. This transition is also a de-risking strategy, relying on renewable energy, green hydrogen, and recyclable plastic or metal makes industry less dependent on raw materials and less vulnerable in geopolitical difficult times. We all know that companies can make a compelling business case for climate-friendly production if the conditions are right. International cooperation is crucial because many emission-intensive industrial products are traded on global markets, and we are an export country as Germany. This is exactly why we have the Climate Club. Let me highlight what we have achieved together over the past year. First, at the start of COP30, the Climate Club members published a joint global pledge to grow near zero and low emission steels and cement markets. The goal is to increase the global market share of green steel and cement through national policies and international cooperation. We are working towards potentially setting a quantitative target for green steel and cement by COP31. This is a good example of how the Climate Club advances lead markets and strengthens the business case for climate-friendly production. We are tackling one of the key challenges, namely to create demand for climate-friendly industrial products. Second, we draw up joint principles for action to address carbon leakage and other spillovers this year under the leadership of the UK and Turkey. They were presented at the New York Climate Week in September. Third, we are supporting our partners in the Global South with their transition. That is where most industrial investments will be made in future. With the global matchmaking platform, we are helping emerging economies in developing countries gain access to technical and financial support for climate-friendly industrial development. In the past year alone, we supported 9 countries and 20 projects matches have already been identified. It is also clear that we are just beginning. Germany, the UK, and the Climate Investment Funds sent an important signal last year at COP29 with their joint pledge of $1.3 billion for the support of emerging markets and developing countries. We further developed this in the last year together with a wide range of important actors. Today we can present our joint statement and roadmap on international assistance and partnerships for green industry transitions. I'm very pleased that so many key actors are pulling together. Signatories include emerging economies in developing countries like Brazil, Indonesia, and Kenya. We are also tackling this issue in partnerships with foundations like the Industry Transition Accelerator and organizations like the Green Climate Fund and the Climate Investment Funds and IRENA, or IRENA, how we say it in German. And we can announce another joint outcome. Germany, the UK, and the Global Industry Hub plan to contribute 30 million euros to the Industry Decarbonization Hub Accelerator. This will enable targeted funding for projects to reduce industrial emissions in individual countries, making them bankable. Ladies and gentlemen, dear Alicia, the Climate Club is also about bringing new ideas from practice and science into the debate. I'm very pleased that the report Industry on the Road towards 2050 is being launched and presented today. Thank you to everyone who contributed. Your suggestions will inspire us for the future work of the Climate Club. I would like to once again thank our co-chair Chile, the Climate Club Secretary, the IEA and the OECD, and other key partners for the excellent cooperation. I look forward to continuing our joint efforts to find future-proof solutions for our industry. Thank you very much for the cooperation, and I wish you everyone interesting discussions.
Thank you very much, Minister Schneider, and thank you to Germany for their leadership as a co-chair of the Climate Club, alongside Julio Cordano of Chile. I also think this was a powerful message about the fact that economic competitiveness and security and climate action are indeed two sides of the same coin. So thank you once again for leading the celebration of the many achievements of the Climate Club in 2025. Next, I am very privileged to call to the podium, please, Tariye Gbadegesin, who is SEF CEO. Tariye, the floor is yours. Please.
Good morning, Minister Schneider, Minister Bárcena, okay, I think she's here, distinguished guests and colleagues. I'm thrilled to be here at the launch of this very important work and to celebrate the Industrial Decarbonization Hub Accelerator and just to celebrate the Climate Club in general. It's also great to be back at the Germany Pavilion, one of the more high-energy pavilions, so it's good to be here. Today demonstrates an unusually wide alignment of actors, governments, philanthropies, MDBs, corporates, technical coalitions, all rallying around industrial decarbonization. This breadth of cooperation is exactly what the global transition needs and is exactly what the Climate Club is now beginning to unlock. You see, managing industry decarbonization is strategically important to global climate goals, and it remains our toughest challenge. You see, industry is foundational to economies. Economies need steel, cement, fertilizer, and clean fuels. And we also need the green supply chains that are going to drive the scale of the transition. The good news is that industry decarbonization offers a huge opportunity for finance and for collaboration. It's estimated that by 2030, green industrial products could be worth over $1 trillion, and of course will be a critical pillar of the jobs of the future. The Climate Club fills critical gaps for emerging economies, clearer standards, market signals, and frameworks. Now, to deliver transformational change in industry decarbonization, emerging markets and developing economies need a robust policy environment, capacity, and finance. The Climate Club and the SEF together support this nexus. At the SEF, we've spent almost 2 decades helping solve frontier challenges. We use concessional finance with precision to lower risk, reduce costs, and unlock private investment. The SIF has a track record of delivering $12 of mobilized capital for every dollar that the SIF has invested into clean energy and clean technologies to date. And we have ambitions to do even more. Now, that co-financing ratio is in part because the SIF occupies a unique niche. We deliver through 6 AAA multilateral development banks, which allows for a seamless leveraging system. In terms of the work we do with countries, we combine country-led strategic planning, MDB delivery, risk-tolerant concessional capital, and mobilized private finance into an integrated platform. We finance full-chain investment plan preparation, pipeline development, feasibility work, and catalytic capital for the first-of-a-kind or hard-to-finance projects. Our new industry decarbonization program is the first of its kind dedicated program for heavy emitting sectors and green supply chains in developing countries. It is designed to turn a national ambition into investable steel, cement, chemicals, fuel switching, etc. And thanks to the support of Germany, the UK, we're offering a $1 billion pot of funding to support countries with breaking down these barriers, spurring innovation, supporting with the modernization of energy systems to ensure an industrial transition framing, and of course, a just transition. For this program, it was interesting. We had 26 applications, so 24 countries and 2 regions. And it was incredible to see the diverse representation from across the world, which is telling us that countries do have buy-in, and they see the opportunity, they see the future, and they see industrial decarbonization as a path toward competitiveness and growth. Our first 7 partner countries include Brazil, Mexico, and Turkey, and each can access up to $250 million of concessional capital. This is capital to unlock additional funding, and we expect that we will mobilize at least 10 times, such that we're looking at $2.5 billion for each of these countries. This is how we need to finance transformation going forward. Industry is also special in that there is a very special place for the private sector in industry. And for this program, we require that at least 50% of the capital goes to the private sector. And we have a carve-out at the project level for this. Our investment planning model serves country-owned platforms. They enable collaboration. They align policy. They bring infrastructure and finance together across multiple sectors, because ultimately, even industry decarbonization is about a system. This collaboration starts with governments, MDBs, and other stakeholders, and we're working on sector transformation programming that gives even more flexibilities to countries to design programming that meets their specific needs. SIF strongly welcomes this the Hub Accelerator as a practical, country-relevant mechanism to organize planning, technical expertise, and investment pipeline development and deal flow. And it responds exactly to what countries are requesting, a structured path from strategy to bankable projects. The experience in the Brazil hubs shows how this approach can anchor national roadmaps, crowd in capital, and link domestic priorities with international investment. And our industry program is a major part of that. SIF looks forward to working closely to ensure these hubs are investment-oriented, finance-aligned, and fully responsive to country-owned priorities. So what do we need to do to get this right going forward? We have to ensure that platforms are mapped to real projects, not just diagnostics. We need to ensure a focus on safeguarding, reskilling workforces, ensuring vulnerable communities are carried along, supported, and that workers are equipped to be anti-fragile and be focused and supported through green job opportunities. We also have to guarantee fair access to emerging markets and developing economies for these new green markets, new standards, new certification frameworks. We also have to move at investment cycle speed. It should be about speed to scale. You see, the biggest risk is not about ambition now, but about execution. So we've got to continue mobilizing blended finance, providing de-risking tools to unlock private capital. And at this COP of implementation, it is really about moving from ambitious commitments to ambitious implementation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tariye, for your high energy message about how we can achieve our objectives in climate finance, and not just to achieve, but excel. It's now my pleasure to call, I think, Julia Ellis from the UK. There you are. Okay, great. Come on up, Julia. I understand you're guiding us through to the photo. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julia Ellis from the UK government. So I'm Deputy Director for International Climate Finance. Our Secretary of State, Ed Miliband, and Climate Envoy, Rachel Kite, couldn't be here, but asked me to pass on just how important this agenda is for the UK government. And I would like to also point out there's another very high energy pavilion just down the way, the UK one, if you want to join. So for too long, industrial decarbonisation in EMDEs has been seen as a challenge. But as we've heard today, it is one of the greatest opportunities of our time, driving growth, creating jobs, strengthening climate resilience. Yet, green industry has long been marginal in climate finance, and this needs to change. So we've seen enormous progress since COP29, where we launched the global pledge on scaling international assistance for industrial carbonisation. That was backed by 1.3 billion, which was a very clear signal of political will. And since then, we've seen concrete progress. We've commissioned the IEA and OECD analysis on EMDE investment, and we've set up the North-South Green Industry Working Group under the Breakthrough Agenda and the Climate Club's Global Matching Platform. And today, as we've heard, we've launched a joint statement and roadmap, the first shared action plan, informed by EMDE governments to improve the quality, quantity and coordination of financial and technical assistance for green industry transitions. Just want to very quickly highlight 3 highlights from the roadmap. So first, as we've heard, the Country Hubs Accelerator Programme, $30 million in initial grants to help EMDE build bespoke platforms for green industry transitions, building on models like the Brazil-UK industrial decarbonisation and hydrogen hubs. Second, in partnership with the SIFs, as we've just heard, the partnership between SIF's Industry Decarbonisation Programme and the Global Matchmaking Platform, this is going to help align support from delivery partners for 7 EMDEs, preparing 250 million of SIF investment plans, maximising our collective impact. We aim to extend this to other countries in the SIF pipeline soon. And third, the International Support Working Group, maintaining the North-South dialogue and donor coordination, with roadmap updates at each COP through to the next global stock take. And as we've heard as well, we've advanced the voluntary principles on carbon leakage and the global pledge for low-carbon steel and cement. Ahead of COP31, we should aim for clear, measurable targets for market growth. So thank you to all the partners, especially those in emerging markets and developing economies, for your leadership and collaboration. And together we can advance the sustainable win-win partnerships for the green industry transition. Please join us now for a photo moment to commemorate this milestone.
Yeah, so can we please have all the signatories of the pledge please come on up to the stage for a quick photo. And then we're a slight adjustment in our programming. I'm gonna ask Marcelo Mena to come up to the stage right after that, because I know he's got a very tight turnaround he needs to catch on the flight. So could we please have all the joint signatories please come on up to the stage for the photo, and please do remove your badge when you do, just so that for the sake of continuity and appearances. So again, I ask all our joint signatories to please come on up to the stage. Are you one of the joints? Yeah, the pledge, yeah.
I think SEforALL signed it, right?
What's that?
SEforALL, did they sign it?
Yes, I think so, yeah. You're welcome to go. Are we good? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Quick applause. Now, I'm going to ask that Marcelo, Mena, please come up to the podium very briefly to deliver your message. Marcelo, again, I know that you have a very tight connection to catch, so very interested to hear your reflections on this Climate Club Road to 2050 report, and then we'll carry on with our regular panel. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. And the reason I'm usually wearing my suit, but I'm traveling, going back home. I wanted to talk about something that a real climate club that actually has material effect today that we need to bring. And so that's what I brought into this paper. So we've seen the European Union established a standard on maximum emission for imported oil and gas. There's 7 million tons of methane that are imported by the European Union per year, which is roughly an extension of 20% of additional emissions. And so therefore, their import standard will help reduce temperature in the short term and reduce oil and gas emissions by 33%. So in this COP, the UK, the OLADE ministerial group, which represents the 26 Latin American and Caribbean countries, all joined in a statement to point to near zero methane oil and gas. And that in itself could help around 75% mitigation of oil and gas overall. In China, they're also looking into the imported oil and gas discussion in terms of their methane compensation. What I was asked to do in the context of this was to look at what the impact was on commodities. And there are many commodities I had not noticed because I was only thinking about power, right? High leakage rate oil and gas causes natural gas full life cycle emissions to almost double and almost match coal, which is what we want to replace. But if you start looking in the paper that I wrote at least, you'll find that this also extends to fertilizer, so this is very important, hydrogen, also green steel with DRI technology that also uses natural gas. And so therefore, if you want any of the industrial emissions to go down, if you do not fix the methane in the oil and gas that you're using, then you're not using and untapping the whole potential. That is the benefit of the paper. I hope you enjoy it, but it's also something that already has a material coalition. The Near Zero Methane Oil and Gas Coalition that Germany supported, OLADE supported, Chile supported, and UK supported is the starting point for that. Thanks so much.
And thank you so much, Marcelo. Thank you for joining us on such a tight time schedule. Appreciate it. And all of you in the audience for bearing with us while we had a quick swap out in our speaking order. So I would now like to discuss for a moment one of the key aspects of the Climate Club's convening power is the ability to bring together countries, industry, and experts noted around the world in the field of industrial decarbonization. And it's with great pleasure that we now discuss today and unveil the Climate Club's flagship report from our experts, Industry on the Road to 2050. This is a key report to which Marcelo Mena from the Universidad Pontificia contributed to. And we've had many other experts in addition. And so I would like to thank those experts and their teams, including Patricia Espinosa from 1.5, Elena Chima from the University of Geneva, Carolyn Fisher from the World Bank, Michael Melling from MIT Center for Energy and Environmental Policy Research, Ricardo Ausman from Harvard's Growth Lab, Frank Yotzo from the Australian National University Crawford School of Public Policy, Mercedes Maroto Valer from Harriet Wang University, of course, Marcelo Mena, whom you just heard from the Pontificia Universidad Católica de Valparaíso, Kimberly Klausing from UCLA School of Law, Axel Ockenfels from the Max Planck Institute for Research on Collective Goods, Catherine Wolfram from MIT Sloan School of Management, Damilola Ogunbi from Sustainable Energy for All, Joseph Stiglitz from Columbia University, and Laurence Tubiana from the European Climate Foundation. We also appreciate the work of the contributing authors Stefan Reis and Degar Sagan from OECD, and Antonella Passetto on my team from the Climate Club Secretariat. This report has been developed over several months, with initial results being presented and discussed with members at the fourth Body of Members meeting in New York in September, for authors to also incorporate views from governments. And the work is grouped largely along three lines: decarbonization and economic development, decarbonization in an interconnected world, coordination challenges, and effective and inclusive industrial decarbonization policies. Now, there's much more to say about this report, but I think I'm just going to let the experts speak for themselves. And so it is now my pleasure to invite to the stage our distinguished panel of experts and country representatives. So please come on up as I call you one by one. First off, we have Julio Cordano, Ambassador and Director of Environment for Climate Change and Oceans at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Chile. Tuğba Dincbas, Deputy Director at the Directorate of Climate Change in the Turkish Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change. Kurt Vandenberghe, Director General for DG Klima at the European Commission. Unfortunately, Marcelo had to move on, but we thank him for his participation earlier. Lola Vallejo, the Director of European Climate Diplomacy and Partnerships at the European Climate Foundation, who is stepping in for Laurence Tubiana, who unfortunately had a scheduling conflict, so thank you very much for being here, Lola. And Tamojit Chatterjee, Senior Energy Policy Specialist at Sustainable Energy for All, who's representing Damilola Ogunbi. Thank you all for joining us here today. Hope you don't mind if I take a seat. I would ask to keep that, of course, we keep our answers concise, maybe 1 or 2 minutes each, so that we can cover multiple rounds and maybe even have a minute or two for audience questions. So let's start with a question for our experts. Could you please briefly outline the key findings and recommendations of your or your organization's article and what role the Climate Club played in your view? So first, let's turn to Lola Vallejo for your response.
Thank you. I think it's working, yes. Thank you very much. So I'm stepping in for Laurence Tubiana, the CEO of the European Climate Foundation, and she and colleagues wrote on the issue of the codependency of our embodied emissions. Basically, the starting point is that when you might consider that the climate change negotiations left trade issues outside of the scope of the discussions that we have today, but we cannot leave the issue of trade aside anymore, and places like the Climate Club are increasingly important. If we take a look back at the last decade, we've seen that both EU and European Union emissions imported increased, China's imported emissions more than doubled, and it really matters that we take an important stance to account for embodied emissions, which now account for 25% of global emissions. And we see that there are certain issues that are particularly important for countries to cooperate, and thinking about issues like a common methodology for accounting are really important to have evidence-based discussions around issues of embodied emissions. We think that creating a coalition of the willing of countries that are willing to take targets to reduce their embodied emissions and publish roadmaps to reduce them is also incredibly important. And the third point that is really important to address these embodied emissions is to open up spaces for dialogues to see how these can be reduced, including through consideration related to tech transfer and finance. I think we need a mindset shift, and the idea that my imports are your emissions is really important to measure that we have a codependency question and that no country can tackle this alone. I think it's really encouraging that we see here at COP the variety of forums. Obviously, the Climate Club is incredibly important in terms of many-lateral issues, but there are also worth noting that the BRICS countries have also launched a laboratory for trade, climate change and sustainable development. And here at COP, there was also the launch of the integrated forum on trade and climate. And both these show that we cannot put aside anymore the issues of trade and climate, and we need to be serious about tackling these imported emissions. Maybe one last thing I'll mention is that ECF is also playing a role in trying to advance the debate and have an informed discussion. We will publish a tracker of imported emissions covering over 40 countries in September next year, and we hope that this can pave the way for the discussions that the Climate Club is contributing to pushing. So thanks very much for the Climate Club for its leadership on this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lola. And thank you especially for thinking about the ways that we can partner to reduce emissions and both enhance economic cooperation and growth. So next, I'd like to turn to Tamojit Chatterjee for your views.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Michael. So when we were contributing to the report, and it's a great sort of compendium of good articles, one of the things that we have been sort of looking at, especially, is industrial decarbonization is often seen as a hard-to-abate sector, but we must actually reframe that discussion to a priority-to-abate sector. And I'll give you three findings that we sort of really found in our research. One is the scale of opportunity, right? So industry accounts for 37% of energy use today. But also 1/3 of global emissions. And there is a real chance, especially if you look at emerging markets and developing economies, there is a chance to leapfrog to green industry. And there are several good examples, especially if you look at India with the green hydrogen corridors. If you look at Malaysia, Sarawak's, the SCORE corridor, it already attracted $27 billion in investments and created 17,000 jobs. But without action, the industrial emissions, especially from emerging markets, will grow from 10% today to 30% by 2060. So what we are really looking at here, and as Lola was mentioning as well, that there is a technology gap, right? So we have critical technologies that are working as well, but they are concentrated only in a few countries. So the real challenge will be, how do we sort of facilitate that technology transfer? We help together with the global north and the global south, sort of co-develop the technologies as we start to see this rise in opportunities within the emerging markets itself. And we don't just need breakthrough technologies, so we need the basics. If you see efficient motors, heat pumps, these can already deliver around 30 to 40% of emission reductions today. So these are immediate opportunities that one can already look at rather than wait for new solutions to come in. And finally, integration is essential. We must coordinate energy, industry, and infrastructure planning together. In Africa, where we work, renewable captive generation can solve both grid reliability and build competitive industry at the same time. So the key is not just climate, it's about competitiveness as well. And we have been supporting countries, especially in developing integrated energy plans, providing policy support on localizing green value chains within the countries, and bringing together public and private sector, especially through platforms like Mission Efficiency, which we launched at COP30 with the COP30 presidency. And finally, in terms of the Climate Club's role, some of the key achievements were already highlighted by the German minister. But three mechanisms that we sort of see. First is a technology transfer framework that's open and accessible, so we need to facilitate that sort of discussion. Second, innovative finance, especially including blended finance. How can we leverage public finance for 5 to 10 time multipliers, essentially? And thirdly, a partnership platform such as the global marketplace that connects EMD clusters with experts and capital at the same time. So we need implementation support. There are great pledges, especially the climate and steel pledge as well. But we are happy to now look at how we can implement this on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tamojit. And for this message of looking at both what we can do with the technologies of today, and that we need not wait, but at the same time, looking at the R&D and the technology transfer that's going to lead to EMD is implementing the technologies of tomorrow to truly transform our industrial sector. Now I would like to turn to our government representatives, Kurt Vandenberghe, Tuğba Dincbas, and Julio Cordano. And my question to you is, what findings of the report do you think are important to accelerate action? And what lessons have already been learned from that cooperation in forums such as the Climate Club? And how do you think they can be used to accelerate industry transition? I fully expect you can answer all three of these questions in 2 minutes. Well, I think one was sort of a compound question, but anyway. But no, please do share your views with us and your insights. So I'll turn first to DG Vandenberghe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here this morning. And we from the Commission have been committed to the Climate Club since the start. And the report that is being published proves the value of the Climate Club. I think the spirit of this whole report and of the Climate Club is what the previous speakers also said, is that decarbonization is not only, and industrial decarbonization is not only a necessity, it is becoming increasingly an opportunity. Because the world needs to move into that space. And we all know that we need to become much more low carbon in our products, in our consumption and our production. So the way we would like to look at it is that we are moving the paradigm from sustaining our competitiveness to making our sustainability competitive. So competitive sustainability is really what we're trying to move towards, and that is exactly what the report is giving us as underpinnings. 4 quick findings in reading the report. First is that you can make industrial decarbonization a business case and an investment case, provided the policy framework is adapted to it. We like to see this in Europe as a modernization agenda of our economy and our industry so that it becomes more fit for a future that will be very different from what we've seen over the past decades. Secondly, the whole dimension of demand, creating markets for these products, making sure that someone pays for the green premium is really becoming foundational to make this work. That's also what we are working on with the Clean Industrial Deal in Europe, where we are setting up lead markets and making sure that both public procurement but also mandates for the private sector, encouraged or compulsory, can create these lead markets in the future. Thirdly, that of course requires, and it was already mentioned, indicators, methodologies, definitions of what is, for example, low carbon or near zero steel. That's of course the beginning. Without that, you can't do much in terms of creating lead markets. And I can already announce that next month the European Commission will propose a methodology for a label for low carbon steel. Which will be the start of a whole work stream for creating lead markets. But lastly, fourth finding is that the value and importance of international cooperation cannot be stressed enough. We really need to do this at scale with as many countries and jurisdictions as possible, looking at the interoperability of what we do across these various jurisdictions. And the way we do this is through clean trade and investment partnerships, where we basically want to do 3 things, combining 3 policy activities. One is regulatory cooperation on methodologies, definitions, etc. Secondly, mobilizing investment, for example, through Global Gateway. But thirdly, very importantly, providing access to our market in the EU for the green products that meet the definitions and the standards that we agree on. And this can create really a mobilizing effect and provide a business case, not just for industries in Europe, but for all industries in all jurisdictions that want to work on this. So we strongly believe, again, reading the report and looking at the work of the Climate Club, that plurilateral collaboration like the Climate Club is becoming really essential. Not against global negotiations, but to actually accelerate global negotiations like the ones we're having here today. And I could go on for a long time, but I think these are the main findings.
Thank you so much, DG Vandenberghe. And I think that phrase, competitive sustainability, I think is one that really resonates certainly with folks here up on the dais, and I'm sure with everybody in the audience as well. But of course, on the other hand, the question of who pays is one that also resonates. And I think that those are the kinds of problems the Climate Club is grappling with on a regular basis. So let me now turn to Tuğba Dincbas for your thoughts and reflections. Tuğba, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Michael. First of all, the global importance of transition towards a green industry is clear to all of us, I think. And in this respect, the collaborative work done under Climate Club is not only a technical exercise from our side. It's also a reflection of our shared common understanding and determination to build a more sustainable future together. The industrial sector is one of the fundamental pillars of the economic development, and as my colleague said, it's 1/4 of the global GHG emissions of the world. And regarding the findings of the Climate Club's new report, by the way, congratulations for that, we consider several points particularly important for accelerating global action. First, the report delivers a clear and urgent message. It says that this transformation of industry is progressively far too slowly to align with our commitments, global commitments and objectives. Emissions from heavy industries need to decline 90% by 2050. But at the moment, it's announced near zero or low carbon production capacity for 2030 is almost 10%. So this gap highlights the need to immediate scale the efforts globally. So secondly, the report also underlines the highly interconnected nature of global industrial production. Trade is also a part of them. And this interconnection requires a deep international cooperation, and particular to avoid carbon leakage, to harmonize standards, as my colleague said, and to scale up financial and technical assistance. The report makes clear that no country can achieve this transformation alone. The scale of challenges demands a collective approach, actually. Lastly, the industrial profiles of different economies differ significantly, including with regards to the size of the sectors, different technologies they use, the production processes, the fuel mixes, and etc. Everything is different. So to tackle the challenges, differences should be taken into account also. And this is also what we are going to talk in the Climate Club. In the context, we consider that the Climate Club is a key platform for experience sharing and joint solution development. We also appreciate the work done under Global Matchmaking Platform. GMP will play an important role, I think, in supporting industrial transformation. We also have 2 projects under GMP, and we are very happy to work with them. We stand ready to work with all the members and the Secretariat to move forward. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Tuğba. Now, as we come to Ambassador Cordano's reflections, I want to ask my 2 experts, after Ambassador Cordano has spoken, if you have any quick sort of thoughts or rejoinders on any of what you've heard before we go into our closing remarks for the panel. So, Ambassador Cordano, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you, Michael, for the excellent facilitation. And thank you also for all the experts that really took part in this report. As you know, Chile has been the co-chair of the Climate Club for more than 2 years now. and we've been very proud in contributing to the success of the Climate Club. And we believe that the point has been proven that this is a very, very important topic that requires a lot of attention in a mixture of technical work and also political awareness. As we move forward in the implementation of the Paris Agreement, we need more and more countries that see the road ahead and take the right decisions and make the right partnerships within the country, but also among countries as well. So I wanted to highlight a couple of elements from the report that we believe that are particularly important. First one is something that Lola mentioned, which is about trade. Chile is an open economy. We are very much open to foreign trade, and we believe that it is very important to have sustainable trade. And we see that the dangers of having ambition in mitigation with no connection to trade will precisely lead us to potential elements like leakages and other things. And I think the Climate Club has been very important precisely to understand those connections. And we are seeing that actually these days in the negotiations here, that we've been discussing about trade quite intensively. And I think precisely the lessons learned from the Climate Club can also be useful for those negotiations in the spirit of Mutirao, as we're saying these days. The other thing I think is very important is that we have always said that climate policy needs to be based on science and technical advice. And I think here you will see that the science of economics in this case, or the science related to trade, are showing us very clearly that there is a very strong message from science that leakage exists and that we need to take care of it. And we need to take measures in order to avoid the bad consequences associated with leakage and importing of emissions. So I think that's a very, very strong message that I think it's important to say. Two last points. One is about the importance of public-private partnerships. We have seen in Chile, especially in the cement sector, that even before we joined the Climate Club, the cement sector in Chile was committed to carbon neutrality by 2050. And they already have a roadmap. They have 11 sectorial targets with 11 pathways of work. But at the same time, they always said, in order to achieve that, we have certain assumptions, and we need to continue building partnerships. And the Climate Club came in here, in this scenario, precisely to provide opportunities for partnerships through the global matchmaking platform. And exactly they are working on that framework. The last point that I wanted to make is that industry decarbonization is something that is very relevant, especially for industrial nations. And I think it's a very fair point to say that developed countries and industrialized countries will have this topic very high in their agenda. So the question is, should developing countries be also interested in this? And the answer is yes. Among other things, because developing countries are also decarbonizing and have NDCs, have climate policies, and they need to participate in international markets. And of course, we don't want to create a market A for low emission products for developed countries and a market B with high emission products for developing countries. So we need to all be part of this global community that is contributing to a decarbonization of the industry sector, and that at the end of the day we create a global market that demands low emission products. So I think that the technical discussion is precisely where we need to extend our hands to every country in the planet and try to make them all participate in this debate.
Thank you so much, Julio. And again, with that message that the science is real, but the cooperation really can be boundless. So maybe I'll come to my two experts. If you have any thoughts or rejoinders that you'd like to offer, 1 minute quickly. I think the audience would love, at least I would love, to hear a couple of your reflections on what we've heard from our member countries.
Can I have this? Is this working? Okay. I think what really strikes me after hearing all of your response is, as Tuğba said, it's not just a technical issue. At this stage, having informed discussions and discussions on data and methodology is itself a reattaching commitment to science-based policy, as Julio also mentioned, but also the mere approach of cooperating and having spaces for dialogue and trying to transform action on your consumption emissions in a collaborative manner is also a really important statement in the current geopolitical context we're in, and I think that's really something that should be commended. So congratulations on all the Climate Club members for your leadership, and hopefully this can also support broader discussions on basically international partnerships supporting domestic mitigation actions.
Tamojit, last word. It's yours.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, we talked about leapfrogging and working with emerging markets as well. One of the things that I did want to add is on capacity building and institutional support, right? Because green industrialization will require new skills. And countries, therefore, need very specific support, practical support to develop industrial strategies that align with their NDCs, with their energy transition plans. And that sort of help creates the enabling environment for bankable project pipelines, right? That's what developing countries really need. So if we can sort of focus on those practical things, not one-off workshops, but sustained capacity and institutional support, that will go a long way in building the base for EMDs to also pick up and access the green marketplace that is being sort of created as we speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamojit. Will you please join me, ladies and gentlemen, in giving our excellent panel a very resounding and appreciative round of applause. Thank you so much, Kurt Vandenberghe, Tuğba Dincbas, Marcelo Mena, who of course had to depart a little bit earlier, Lola Vallejo, and Tamojit Chatterjee, and of course, Ambassador Cordano, for this lively and insightful discussion. And if you look here up on the screen, you can see the QR code right over, floating somewhat right over my head. It is now published and live on the Climate Club website. We invite members to reflect on the ideas that are put forward in this report as we further define the work for next year. And I think to Tamojit's point about capacity building, this is not the end. This is one step on the journey that we are all taking together of economic advantage, which comes out of the industrial transformation. Indeed, industry has been high on the agenda throughout COP30. It is encouraging to see how governments, the private sector, academia, and nonprofits are forging the transition, just like you've seen in today's discussion. That work is recognized and echoed in many events these past few days, and I think it's really motivating all of us. As we are still observing and contemplating on the dynamics and the outcomes of COP30, this incredible gathering of individuals, I'm very tempted to forecast that the Climate Club is going to expand its reach and its impact by building on the solid foundations of the work of the last 2 years and looking ahead to the next 2 and the 2 after that and after that and after that. You can see the organization continues to be a vital one. We were 46 members this morning. We are now 47 members, and we will continue to grow. And so, especially with the addition of Mexico, which I am just so beyond excited to have, because it does show that the organization truly has a global reach. And it can be a key convening forum between the developed and the developing world. So we will continue to build on this year's achievements. We will continue to work on growing our markets for near zero and low emissions steel and cement by advancing a common understanding and by pursuing our shared goals towards climate ambition, towards industrial transformation. I want to end by reiterating that the essence of the Climate Club is to be inclusive. We are committed to engaging with all of our members on the topics that are relevant for them. I've had a great time here over the past several days talking and surveying and hearing from all the different members and their various different interests. to advance climate action in the industry sector while realizing economic competitiveness and opportunities in the industrial transition. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us. I really appreciate your coming here to the German Pavilion and joining us in the Global Motirao. And I would like to thank you all, and you know, I hope you enjoy the rest of your time here at COP30. Thank you once again. Thank you so much.
Global Motirao, realizing just transitions. Welcome to the German Climate Pavilion at COP30 in Billey.